If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and follow to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast. You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett. I know you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you're wanting to be as fit as possible. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you want to help your kids start training jiu-jitsu, I'd like to welcome Kieron Price to my podcast. Hi, Kieron. How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm doing really super well, partly because I have 2 cans of new tonic in front of me, one of the blue raspberry, this is not an ad, and one of the very new strawberry lemonade.
I've just got water. You're making me jealous.
You don't need new tonic, definitely not 2 cans. Kieron, thank you for joining me. You are a white belt. Talk to me about why you started training jiu-jitsu.
So started training about March time this year. One of my daughters was both of my daughters started training a month before me.
Yeah.
My 9-year-old was getting picked on at school by a boy. And I've been in and around jiu-jitsu for years, and she actually did it pre-COVID. She started when she was about 4 years old, but because COVID happened, she had to stop. And so I went back. We train at RGA Bucks, which is Kev Capel's place, and so I had a chat with Kev and Keenan, and then got her on the mats, which is actually really hard. She was petrified her first session.
Okay.
Because my youngest goes to the 4 to 8-year-olds classes, and my 9-year-old is 9 to 16. So she's on the mats, she's diddy compared to these huge kind of 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then from there, the girls were like, come on, Dad, we're doing it now. We want to see you do it. You've done it before, you know. Yeah. And I was like, well, all right, fine. So I put on my old gi, which at the time was an A4, and it was tight.
Okay.
It was tight because I'd shrunk it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was carrying a little bit of timber back then, and so it was tight. But I got back on the mat, and I actually had a client, Steve. Every week, Steve was coming in, going, "Come on, you come with me, roll with me. I do the morning sessions." And I was like, actually, mornings would suit me. So I went down with Steve, and my first ever session, Steve turned up late. And so and I don't know, it's like, and other people might relate to this, but stepping on that mat with not the very first time, with not knowing anyone there, my anxiety just took over my whole, and I was like, I just felt like heavy. I felt like my breathing was wrong. And as soon as Steve, he's like my jiu-jitsu dad, as soon as Steve walked through that door, it was like a ray of sunshine. I was like, right, he's here now. Good. And I had just the best first session back.
Nice.
And just from that session, and then I went through the whole, why haven't I done this sooner? Yeah. And I just that very first session, I absolutely fell back in love with jiu-jitsu and absolutely love it.
Oh, amazing. So you've been training around for 6 months, and have you got any stripes yet?
I had my first stripe 2 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
I was so happy. So my morning coach, Jack, kept it quiet, and at the end of the session, he was like, right, look, before we get a photo, I've got to give out a stripe. And I was a bit oblivious, to be honest. I'd just been rolling, so I was more trying to work out that technique. I don't let things lie. I like to think about things. And then he's like, right, and he goes to me, and do you know what the most beautiful thing was out of everything was, and the applause that room gave me for my first strike, that
Yeah.
it still makes me emotional now.
Nice.
Everyone was cheering and screaming, and it was just so. And I felt a part of something then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was absolutely incredible. Just receiving that stripe and receiving the love from the community.
Yeah.
That was what was really, really nice.
Yeah, I think any of us that have kind of been promoted over the years, have received stripes or belts or whatever, it's that support and the congratulations from people you may not know very well, but actually they're all behind you, they're all supporting you and just want you to do so brilliantly. I don't actually know. There is one other place actually that kind of want you to do well and support you. The other place is in the weight loss community. I don't know whether you're familiar with any of that.
I've just lost. I'm currently losing a lot of weight. And I'm not. I don't think I'm a part of necessarily a weight loss community.
Yeah.
But the support on social media where I'll put I've lost this much weight or I'm doing this and I'll do before. Oh, the amount of messages I get from like, mate, you're doing so well, rah, 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 rah. And so just the barbering community, because I cut hair, the barbering community, the jiu-jitsu community, everyone is like, mate, keep going. I'm now in a comfortable A3 gi.
Congratulations. I love it. I love it. Just kind of changing, having a smaller gi. I've gone through a kind of similar weight loss journey. We're both using Mounjaro, which is, it's got its benefits, and actually jiu-jitsu is kind of helping us on our way. Now, I started losing weight kind of in the first year or so of training jiu-jitsu, which was really good. But Mounjaro has just kind of sped up the whole process, which we're all feeling great. We're all kind of going down gi sizes, and we're able to move a lot more. Are you finding that?
Yeah, I think I was at a bit of a loss. I was probably on. I might have had like maybe a little bit of depression.
Yeah.
I was really unhappy with just myself and the way I'd let me get the way I was. I was feeling just.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. I was probably feeling a bit ugly, a bit unworthy of people, and I was just like, I need to get back on track. And then I'd seen a few other people use Mounjaro, so I did my research.
Yeah.
Started taking it. It didn't do well with me. The first few jabs, I must admit, were horrendous, and I was like, I could happily give this up, but I stuck through it, and now there's a couple of side effects, which I get still now, but other than that, man, I've lost. I was at my biggest. I was 120, but near on 130 kg.
Wow.
So yeah, I was nearly 130 kg. I'm down to 98 this morning, so 98 kg. Currently.
So you're looking forward to competing at a new weight. Now, I know we've been doing lots of work in the female space to increase the weight categories over 75, over 79 kilos, just to give those of us over that weight more categories to fight at an equal kind of, a kind of level playing field, as it were. But it must feel great to be less kilos in weight and feel more flexible.
I'll give you a really good example. We were doing leg locks today. So we were doing single X guard, kind of, and then a sweep into a straight leg lock. And I had a lot of fat around here before, and now I can put my arm under a lot easier to hold my lapel to put on that straight leg lock and pull back. And it was I'd done that the very first time, and I was like, oh my god, how am I squeezing through here? And now it's becoming a lot easier. So yeah, it's moving on the mats, being able to do break falls, do rolls. I don't feel so heavy when I'm doing the warm-up or anything like
Yep.
that, I feel
Yeah.
it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
How much weight have you lost all in total?
So in my first competition, or kind of around about, I think I started when jiu-jitsu, I think it was about like 115 kilos. I'm now at 80. So
Congrats.
was that 35 kilos,
Smashed it.
which is good. And I'm feeling good. And actually, because of the jiu-jitsu, my mindset is a lot healthier. I've kind of lost 7 stone in 7 months with a previous weight loss entities and communities, which is where the kind of, the stars and the kind of congratulations from community that I was referencing. But
Yeah.
just, it just feels good to be less weight. And, but the first time that I lost weight, my mindset still imagined my body being the same size. I didn't feel any different. But because we're now moving our bodies and playing jiu-jitsu, it's very obvious you're more in touch with your mind and your body together rather than kind of separate things. So, if you're on a weight loss journey, just start training jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, literally that. And it's so funny, like when people say, especially when, like if you're bigger, you like use your weight. You use your weight, and as I'm losing weight, I'm
Yeah.
having to try and force more pressure on because I'm not as heavy as I used to be.
That's where they keep telling us it's technique, not like strength. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if you've got strength, use your bloody strength.
Oh, 100. I have no strength. I've just got weight. I've just got weight and a little bit of technique, a little tiny bit.
Yeah. Nice.
How did you find, I haven't competed yet, so
Yeah.
how many times have you competed now?
So officially twice in IBJJF type events, but one
Okay.
invitational thing that was an interclub type event. But it was really scary. People talk about an adrenaline dump, and I didn't know what that was. And it's only almost a year after I competed, having spoken with Georgina, that what it was. So maybe about an hour before I competed, I felt really spaced out. I didn't really know where I was.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I had my kids with me. I had one of my Instagram followers that kind of offered to help me out in Barcelona because I was out there with the kids on my own without anyone else.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to do this, getting a masters female competition and matchups, I still had to drop 2 age categories to get a match. But we have to do what we have to do. But the adrenaline dump was the biggest shocker, actually, on reflection. I was so scared about doing the weigh in. Thankfully, they didn't weigh me in because I was already in the super heavy category. So I didn't have that pressure. But the whole energy around competing, I was kind of encouraged along, because you have to do a walk, not a walk of shame, but the walk to the mats, because in bigger competitions, you have to kind of walk around. And there were a couple of guys there, kind of bigger guys, that were like, come on, you've got this. And it was just really lovely. I didn't know anybody. But when you kind of see and are around people like-minded, similar size, similar shape, they're all rooting for you. And that was the joyous thing. People
That's
I didn't
the best,
know.
right?
And whoever that was, I just want to thank them, because that little, like, you've got this.
Oh god, yeah. I think
was just
my
amazing.
one of my goals is I would love to compete on the same show as my daughter.
Oh,
That's a huge goal of mine, just to go, we competed at the same show, win, lose or draw.
Yeah.
I can just say we did something together like that, and that'll be so super awesome. She's got a lot of competitions coming up over the
So
course
you've
of the
got lots of
next.
opportunities to sign up
So
then.
yeah, so I've got lots of opportunities. I wanna be at the right weight. So I'm competing in October at the UKGC PP in High Wycombe. So I'm gonna. She's competing on that show. She's already got a match there. I'm competing. I haven't got a match yet. If I go higher, there's 2 people from my same gym who are in that bracket. So I'm like, I'm probably gonna just stay where I am for the minute.
Yeah.
And see what happens. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to, if I can compete on that one with her. I
Yeah.
can. That's a thing that I can tick off my bucket list and say we did that together, and that'd be awesome.
Good. There may well be two schools of thought as a jiu-jitsu parent with this, Kieron, though, because the stress parents feel when their kids are competing, and you've probably been around when she's competing anyway, but what I find is you need your headspace, you need to focus. Otherwise, you're not really giving yourself the best opportunity to do whatever, but just get a couple of competitions in the bag.
Yeah.
Just go and do it. Whoever you are.
I have your kids competed yet?
My son has, and
Yeah.
he lost the first two matches, and then we've kind of been a bit wary. We're not kind of natively an aggressive, kind of competitive family, so
Same.
it was really hard, and he was heartbroken at the loss because he was kind of imagined that he would win, so that was really hard to take as a parent.
Yeah.
And then trying to hold it together when your kid is so upset and so distraught. But actually, within 5 minutes, he was like, I want to get back on the mat. I want to do the next competition.
Good lads. Good. Fair
So,
play to him. Fair play. Because
but
you've got to.
emotionally, it's a roller coaster. Seriously.
Amelia won last month. She won gold at the UK GCPP in Wickham, and she
Yeah.
had a couple of fights. She won her first one by armbar, and
Nice.
she won her second one on points. She won 9-0. Which her
Yeah.
second fight, by the way, was super. It was super close. It could have gone really either way. It was a
Yeah.
great. It was great to watch. And yeah, the first fight, and I don't really know. I'm a football coach, so I coach kids
Yeah.
football. I coach my son's football because my son doesn't want nothing to do with jiu-jitsu, which is absolutely fine. He loves football. It's fine. So I coach his kids football.
Yeah.
So I have that football mentality of like, yeah, let's go, come on. And
Oh
I
no.
and I think some people in the community are probably okay with that. And I, because I wasn't disrespectful to her, the opponent that she went against. I
Opponent.
wasn't
Yeah.
disrespectful to her parents. I was just kind of and you might get, I was letting out a like a relief. I was letting out a like, thank God kind of relief. Like this is,
Yeah.
she's won. This is amazing. And then the second one, she really funny story. She got off the mat and I've given her this big hug. I'm in tears. Win, lose or draw, I think I would have probably been in tears. Just seeing her get on that mat, I was so proud. Like I
Yeah.
was, and she had won on points, but she had just, I think it was about 25 seconds to go. She had taken her back. She
Yeah.
just got uncomfortable, kind of sliding her arm into a bit of a rear naked, and then the time went. And she come off that mat and she was like, I know I've won gold, but I just wish I could have like submitted her. Yeah,
Finished
I
it.
wish I could have
Yeah.
finished it. And I was like, well, there's always a next time. I said, these girls who are in
Yeah.
your category, you will grow with. You will grow when you're 10, 11, 12 and onwards. I said, if they stick
Yeah.
at jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
you're probably going to face them somewhere down the line again. I said, so don't
Yeah.
worry. And I said, and hey, you don't know. You know, that was close. I said, next time the situation might be different.
Yeah. Absolutely. This episode is sponsored by Ranked Wrists, founded by the incredible young entrepreneur Amelia Price. Her mission is to encourage us all to wear our rank with pride. Whether you're a new white belt or an experienced black belt with a number of degrees, you can get the opportunity to wear a handcrafted and unique bracelet inspired by your jiu-jitsu belt. To order yours today, head over to @rankedwrists on Instagram. This is a Jiu-Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. And as always, the clips are on Instagram and YouTube. Go and subscribe and follow. Today, I'm having a conversation with Kieron Price. So, Kieron, you've got a martial arts background, prior to starting jiu-jitsu about 6 months ago. Talk to me about that.
So when I was 14, from the age of being very, very young, I absolutely loved WWE or WWF back then. I'm having to go back
I'm of
a
the
little
same
bit.
generation, Kieron. I know what you're talking about.
So the Undertaker's, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and so I live in a little town called Aylesbury, and there was a wrestling school in Milton Keynes. So I would travel to Milton Keynes and I would train to be a pro wrestler, which is the entertainment side of wrestling and stuff like that. But with that, we had a really good coach who would not only show us the magical side of wrestling, but he was a catch wrestler. He did catch wrestling, he did shoot wrestling. So we would go once a week and we would do either catch wrestling or shoot wrestling, just so he always said, if you're ever in the ring and there is obviously a crowd and stuff like that, he goes, you ever get stuck, you can always go to shoot wrestling, get them in a hold, get them in a headlock or something like that, where you can have a 5-minute breakdown of just have a breather, work out where you are. He goes, and you'll always naturally want to go to them positions if you're doing that. So we learned a lot of catch wrestling, a lot of shoot wrestling.
Yeah.
Not really the submission. It was more the takedowns and the pins and stuff like that, which was absolutely fine. I loved it. I've got a really good friend called Jim who I worked with for years, and he did jiu-jitsu. He's on, I'd say he's on like a break at the minute. He's not doing it currently, but he's a really high level purple belt. Absolutely so knowledgeable about it. I started then doing it with him maybe 2012. Fell in love with it. And then me and my wife, after probably a couple of glasses of wine on a night, she announced that she was pregnant. This is great. That was back then. And then so children cost money, don't they? They really do. And so it was one of the things where I just started jiu-jitsu. So that was like first in, first out. And it was like, well, you're going to have to stop that for a bit. I also had to stop my pro wrestling and stuff like that, which I haven't done that in many, many moons. So yeah, and then I started pre-COVID again. I wanted to get back into jiu-jitsu. I felt that my life was kind of getting back on track. My son and my daughter both started doing jiu-jitsu pre-COVID. And then COVID hit. And then we stopped. And then we had me and my wife had another child. And yeah, like I'm just now in a place where my youngest daughter is 5. So she's now 5. She does the baby class as such. She does the Diddy class, which is awesome. She's Keenan, Kev Capel's son Keenan teaches the kids. Keenan is out of this world amazing. You got Keenan and Jack. Jack also teaches. He's a blue belt. And Keenan's son Ezekiel is like my daughter's best friend. They like, she won't go if Ezekiel's not there. She will be looking out for him. Dad is like all day. I know. I'll get home tonight because they'll be. Is Ezekiel going tonight? Is he going tonight? Is he there? And yeah, he'll relax. He'll be there. I know he'll be there because his dad's teaching. So she's like that. My middle child, obviously, who we've talked about, is really hyper fixated on it.
Yeah.
I went and did the adult class this morning. She come with me. She was putting straight footlocks on fully grown adults this morning.
Nice.
So we
see a bright future.
She is happy to wake up at 6:30 and come to jiu-jitsu with me. And she gets angry if I try and sneak out the house without her. So she is really, she would do it 10, 20 times a week if she could, you know. And I'm just happy doing it. You know, I'm 38 now. My ship has sailed. Not in the Masters. I'm a very young master.
You are a very young master.
But my ship has sailed to compete at a very, very high level. But as a hobbyist,
there's still time.
and competing every now and again, I absolutely will. And I love it. It's so good. It's been really good for my mental health recently. I don't know, Lou, how do you find that I've kind of come out of a depression and I'm different. And that sounds weird.
Yeah.
And it's jiu-jitsu that does it for me. And do you find that as well?
Yes. So, first of all, I'm not used to being asked questions, so thank you for giving me the floor. But yeah, depression. There's a kind of for me as a female, kind of going through my menstrual cycle. I have kind of certain days throughout my cycle where I feel quite kind of low and depressed, and I have to. But jujitsu is that kind of continuous training and opportunity to be around people, to take myself out of that. And it's not difficult to go and train. And I feel a lot calmer. Life is more balanced because if you're not training jiu-jitsu, you're thinking about jiu-jitsu and working out how to kind of get on certain submissions or positions for your body type, and you're kind of logically working stuff out in your mind. At least that's what's keeping my mind active along the way, and just knowing that this is something that we're doing now forever,
Yeah.
until the day we kind of die. Really, that's the reality. We all want to be on the mats for as long as possible.
Have you got I've got a goal in the sense of
Yeah.
I'm 38 currently.
Yeah.
If I'm going to stick to my jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Unless injuries or anything like that. But my goal would be, I would like to be either a high level brown belt coming onto my black
Yeah.
belt by the time I'm 50.
Yeah.
And I think that's training twice a week, 2-3 times a week. That's probably doable. I would love.
It is possibly doable, depending on which coach you speak to, but that's fine.
I haven't got the money to do it in 3.5 years. I haven't. I wish I
No,
had.
let's park that one. Yeah, I did have a goal. So part of this story is on my YouTube channel already, and I haven't really spoken about it or reflected on it for some time. Not being too morbid, I've kind of already mentioned we're going to train until we die. But my mother decided that she wanted to kind of give up living at 54. She thankfully didn't die until she was 67, but that's still incredibly young. I did actually used to work in a hairdresser's, Kieron, only after I was made redundant in the corporate world. But I was washing hair, cleaning up, doing all the orders, just being a generally, getting back into the community, which was a lovely thing. But there were women coming in every Friday to have their hair done, and they were age 89 or like 94, and they were still coming in having their hair done. And you know what? I was so inspired, having lost my mum in kind of her mid 60s. But these women were just so dedicated to keeping themselves well, having that connection, having the community. And I was thinking, my life could be so different. You don't have to follow in the footsteps of the ones that came before you, but be inspired by so many other people. So for me, it was like, okay, I started at 44, I think 44, 45. I started jiu-jitsu, and I was thinking maybe at a kind of stretch, my mother wanting to die at the age of 54, and I want the vision to live and be a black belt by that time. So, it's that opposite. I don't want to do what my mum kind of echoed and kind of had troubles with life, but
No, I fully get what you're saying. It's one of the things to go. You've seen hardships, and you're like, I now don't want them
yeah,
hardships because
yeah,
you've got a family to think of, and you've got your children, and you've got everything. You've got a wonderful life, and you
yeah,
don't. You're like, I want to be there, and I want to see this, and I want to be able to do this, and I agree. I don't want. I see people with who are unable, and sometimes it's physically, sometimes it's other things, and I'm like, if I can
yeah,
avoid myself being like that at an earlier age by keeping fit, doing jiu-jitsu, doing a bit of yoga and stuff like that, just to keep me flexible. I'm more than happy to do that. And yeah, I agree with you. I think you're right in what you say. Is you just want to live as happy and as long as possible, right?
Yeah, yes. And it's kind of, a lot of stories that we might hear are, kind of coming away from something terrible, but focusing on something really positive. And jiu-jitsu gives that to us in so many different ways, whether it's the community, the friendships, the people that you start out with are still training with you in, kind of 10, 20 years time. But also, for us, the weight loss, the strength and the mindset and the positivity, but equally seeing our kids coming through the ranks as well, knowing that they're either competing a lot or just dabbling and enjoying
Yeah.
their journey. It just gives us all so much. And at the beginning of the episode, it's about being around for our kids in the future. How important is that for you, Kieron?
Yeah, massively, massively. I'm very lucky. I still have my mum, and she's really good with her grandkids and stuff like that. And so just me, it's so funny. This morning, I don't know why. I knew I was coming on to do this podcast this morning. So me and Amelia, we trained this morning.
Yeah.
We went and did a session with Mike, who works. He's really good at leg stuff and turtle position and stuff like that. So we went and did the session that, and afterwards I said, we haven't actually got a picture of me and you just on the mats, just me and you. And I said, and we've trained so much.
Yeah.
I said, can we get a picture? And she was like, why do you want a picture? I said, because when and if, when and if I do become a black belt, or
Yeah.
we rank up at different stages, you get your grey and white belt, and or I'll get my blue belt. I said, and we can keep taking these pictures, and we can keep. I said, you're eventually probably going to get taller than me. And I said, so it's nice just to have these little memories of this is where we and I would like her to have that picture and go, this is where we started all these years ago. And if we do carry on, which I'm more than likely to, is
Yeah.
just have pictures of us when we're older, and it would just follow that journey, and just be
Yeah.
just love
Yeah,
what we
it's really
do.
important to kind of capture those moments. Maybe not, it's not important right now, but it'll be important in the future. And also for you to see your journey, for one stripe white belt now, Kieron, that'll change over time, and the kind of just your own personal development. And it's just really nice knowing that you've gone through all of those challenges, and just keep showing up, and that you're still there training, however many times a week, and competing and whatever. We never know what changes are going to happen in our lives tomorrow, let alone in 10 years time.
That's literally it, right? You just
Yeah.
never ever know what's going to happen. And it is funny saying about that photo, and it's not important now, but it will be in maybe
Yeah.
10 years. When I did jiu-jitsu back in 2012, my instructor, Dan Lewis, I don't know if you know Dan.
Yes.
Dan is
Yep.
incredible. I love Dan. So Dan and Ian
Yep.
Whitmore, I think Ian's last name is. Dan and Ian are brilliant. And so I was like, it was bank holiday, so RGA Bucks were closed for bank holiday, but Dan's just set up
Yep.
RGA Buckingham. So they had their kids' classes. So I took Amelia over to see Dan, because I trust Dan. He's
Yeah.
so good with the kids. And he goes to Amelia, come over here. So he's flicking through his phone. He goes, look, that's me and your dad, and I've got my gi trousers on
Oh
the wrong way
no.
around. It was my first ever session, and my gi trousers just on completely the wrong way. He goes, at least you haven't done that in the first session. I was like, I see what you mean by the photo.
Yeah.
Because she was like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. Why did you do that? And I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't know that they were right in the front.
They probably kind of, when you kind of, I always struggle to kind of tighten mine, and for they, when you're kind of in a role or a kind of hard session, things don't stay where they need to stay. So you do whatever you do to kind of tie the damn things up. And, although have you mastered tying your belt properly so it doesn't come undone the whole session yet?
The super knot.
Yeah.
I think no, I haven't. I'm going to be honest with you. No, I haven't.
All right, I might have to do.
Amelia can do it.
Okay, good.
My 9-year-old can do a super knot, and if she takes her time, if she's just like quickly get on the mat, she'll just whip a knot. But if she's got time before jiu-jitsu, she'll work out the super knot. But she's allowed to watch a lot of YouTube and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's the only way you can learn.
Oh God, yeah. And I was like, maybe I need a PT session on just working out how to do a super knot.
It takes a bit of time, but when you've nailed it, you're the only one on the mats with their belt still tied at the end of the session. Then it's a win. If you haven't subbed them, your belt's still tied. That's a win.
Yeah, my belt fell off about 3 times today. So yeah, I need more practice. I need to get there. Slowly but surely, I'll get there.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so before we started recording, we spoke a bit around the anxiety of going to classes we wouldn't normally go to. Now, you're part of the morning crew.
Yes.
I'm part of the evening crew, not at the same gym, but you've got some anxiety around going to the evening classes. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I have like evening anxiety. And I think because when I first turned up, and I said earlier, is the morning crew is so small. I think there's usually about 8 people in the morning. It's very quiet. It's very early. So, and we're the first ones to walk into the gym. So
Yeah.
usually I'll get there actually, and I'll give the place I'll give the mats a sweep, and I'll do stuff like that. But in the evenings, it's so busy. It's so full on, and it can be a class of 30 plus people, and I just get proper like, and none of my morning crew are there. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, who's gonna find me a partner? Am I gonna, and you're kind of looking at people in the face, and they probably already got a partner, and I haven't done I will do an evening class. But it's, how do you, I mean, I have really bad evening anxiety. I don't have more. I could turn up into the mornings now, very happy, not bother me. But in the evening, I take it your evening classes are quite busy, and do you get still walking onto the mat anxiety?
Well, normally, so the kids' classes now start. Well, I think they've always at VT Jiu Jitsu in Chippenham started around 6 o'clock. So I've got time to get the kids home from school, cook their dinner, finish off my working day. But that usually continues when I get back from Jiu Jitsu around 9:30. And then we kind of go off. So I'm there for the kids' class because the kids are training, and then I have 2 hours on the mats. So I'm always the first on the mats. Now I used to be really early for things, but there's always more jobs to do wherever I'm at. So I tend to just kind of be on time, or maybe a few minutes late for things now, circumstance. And that would always give me a bit of anxiety turning up a bit later. So I'm kind of first in usually. So I don't have that anxiety. But when the mats get really full, it does make me feel a little bit uncomfortable unless I kind of have my shutters down and just focus on my own training, which I guess we all should. But when mat space gets really busy, sometimes you opt to not take part quite as much as you normally would.
Yeah. How do you find being a female? Is there quite a few females that train at your gym, or are you okay with training with men, or do you have a certain training partner who you tend to sway towards?
I don't have a training partner that I always train with. So throughout my life, thank you for another question, by the way. This is taken another kind of direction. But for me, I'm a dancer of 45 years. So I've always done partner dancing, and I'll take myself off, travel to any location. I used to dance like 7 nights a week before kids, and travel maybe 300 or 400 miles a week just to dance. And I'd rock up at any dance kind of event and just be there. And be quite single-minded with it all. So I've transferred that mindset. I'll just show up anywhere. No one knows where I'm going to pop up next, which is kind of the fun bit. And then I can kind of, go away and go, I had a good session. And that kind of serves me. So guys, girls, whatever, I'm kind of happy to be in that space. We're all bodies at the end of the day.
Maybe because as a kid, I didn't do so many classes. I didn't do karate because I think back when we were children, there was no probably jiu-jitsu, or it was very specialized. It was more karate or taekwondo, maybe. And that was the thing. But I never went. My mum just didn't take me to it. I'm one of 5 boys. So I think as an adult, I've still got that. I never did it as a kid, so now as an adult, I still get that anxiety. But it's weird because in my barbershop, I'll have a new person walk in, and I'll be absolutely fine. It won't bother me. It won't bother me. I had a new client in just before I started this podcast, and he was absolutely lovely. And I don't have that anxiety of, oh my god, it's a new customer, but I have the anxiety of doing an evening session because I don't know no one.
I'm wondering whether it's part of the performance piece. On a one-to-one, it kind of feels good for you or comfortable, but kind of in that scenario, it's an interesting one to unpick, Kieron, and probably come back and chat with me again at some point.
Oh, 100%.
What you're doing is amazing. Keep on with the weight loss. Keep doing with the jiu-jitsu. Eventually we'll all be black belts in years to come, and we're all going to be on the mats forever.
We are, and I'm chasing your blue belt now. That's what I'm after. I've got to try and catch up with you now.
Okay, so one piece of advice, only because I'm kind of just over a year into my blue belt, you'll go, I don't deserve this. This is not where I should be. Why the hell am I a blue belt? Can I just stay a white belt forever, please? So that might be how you feel. I know different people feel different ways. But now I'm kind of a year into my blue belt. I go, I just want to be a blue belt forever now. It's kind of comfortable. And I'm still working out my plan, but I'm still getting stuck on the bottom. So regardless of my size, I still got to escape kind of mount. Thankfully, not high mount anymore.
I rolled with a purple belt today, and it was almost like he was laughing at me.
He was.
He was kind of just in turtle, and I was like, "Oh, fine, I'll jump and take his back." And then he was spinning and doing all sorts. And he was, and then afterwards he goes, "Why are you on your knees so much? Like, get on your toes." And he goes, "Use your weight to crush me a bit." He goes, "That would have worked." But it's all a learning curve.
It is. One of the pieces of kind of game changer information, similar about not being on your knees. Any kind of point where your hands or your feet or your knees are on the mat, switch it. Put it on that body that's underneath you and that you're trying to get into mount. Put the pressure on that body, not on the mat.
Thank you. I love jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so it's like Twister, but imagine all the dots on their body, and that's where you've got to stretch out.
Push that pressure on.
That.
Someone told me to get a small yoga ball and just practice balancing on the yoga ball, just with my body, with no hands or feet and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I don't know if that'll work or not, but it might.
No idea. I mean, anything could work. It's about mindset at the end of the day, isn't it? If you think it's going to work, it's going to work.
There we go, right? There we go.
Kieron, it's been absolutely fantastic chatting with you. Hopefully we'll get to train together at some point soon, because I kind of, you never know where I'm going to pop up next.
There we go. You're always welcome, and bring my daughter would obviously roll your daughter. So there we go. We could get something.
Yeah, I'll bring the kids.
Thank you so much for having me on. I feel like I'm not worthy of being on a podcast yet, but I do really, really appreciate you having me on and letting me tell my little story. So thank you so much for that.
You are welcome. And for me, it's about giving everyone a voice, because everyone's got a different perspective. Everyone's got a story, and everyone deserves to be heard.
Thank you. You're amazing. You're amazing. And you're going to shoot to the sky. I promise you.
I will take those words. They're in. Thanks, Kieron. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for telling your friends about this show. And as soon as this episode ends, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and review if you get this far. Anyway, thanks again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast.